About DOROT, for any of you who are new to DOROT, we are a nonprofit social service organization. We will be celebrating our 50th year this year, and our mission is one of social connection with a focus on people who are 60 years and older. And I'll just say very quickly, we have a number of different program departments. They include volunteer opportunities that you can look into, caring calls, friendly visits, package deliveries, tech coaching. You can both volunteer or receive volunteer services in any of those areas. Our intergenerational programs, which connect older adults with younger people. Our social work supportive services and on-site and special programs. And I'll just say very quickly that that is the department that I work with. Claire works with, Ariel works with, Carly, any number of people you've met. And we present well over 1,000 programs on anything from art and culture, history and heritage, aging well, you name it. We also offer our programs in a variety of formats, in person, via the telephone, and also online, as we are today. And all of our programs are free. And I have asked this before, but how many of you have taken Aging Alone Together, our program for solo ages? I see Randy raising her hand, and yes, and more hands. So this is our flagship program for solo aging, and we will be sending out more information about it. I love the floating thumbs. We focus on different topics: building community, where we live, advanced care planning, financial and legal matters, emergency planning, and supportive services. And our goal is twofold. It's to provide information and resources, but it's also very much to help people think about building connections in their life. We feel like that is foundational to all of the other planning that goes on as we get older. And this program and this series of programs really stems out of that. It's a very rich 6-session curriculum, but we know that there are so many more topics. And we also know that everything that we teach it comes from you. It comes from the 1,800 people who have taken the program and who we have learned both with and from. And so for me, this program is very special because we get to hear from people who are solo agers themselves, who are having those experiences. I try to find people whom we've met before, who come from all parts of the country and who have very different relationships to the experience of solo aging. So that's what you'll hear from today. And I'll just say one last thing. For me, one of the most meaningful parts of this job and this community and this organization is being in community. And that's what's going to happen today. You're going to hear from solo agers from across the country who range in age from their 60s to their 90s. They bring practical experience, wisdom, perspective, honesty, and yes, humor. And their stories of building community, maintaining purpose, aging in place, navigating illness, planning for the end of life are personal, relatable, and inspiring. I am really grateful to all 4 of them for joining us today. And I also want to just say that one of our speakers, who is the one who lives closest, our New York speaker, Thelma Thomas, is caught in traffic. She will be coming soon. She is an amazing person, the former artistic director of the Pearls of Wisdom storytelling troupe. So when she does get on, please welcome her, and I'll make sure to introduce her. So just know that we have a 4th speaker, Thelma, who will be coming on soon. I'm so grateful again to all of you for opening yourself up to our community today. I hope that your experiences that you share with us remind us all that while solo aging can sometimes feel daunting, none of us is alone in the questions that we carry or in planning for the year ahead. And just a little bit about the format. Each of the speakers are going to introduce themselves. They're going to tell you where they are from, I have put together questions that I feel are the most either frequently asked in Aging Alone Together or the questions that feel the most urgent. And then we'll open it up to your questions at the very end. So there'll be about 45 minutes of moderated conversation. And I'm going to ask the speakers to introduce themselves in alphabetical order. So Dan, you are the first, and if you don't mind unmuting and just sharing a minute about who you are, where you come from, and how you see yourself or don't see yourself as a solo ager. And if you can unmute, I just ask, yeah.
There we go. I wasn't able to unmute myself for some reason. Well, I send greetings from the People's Republic of San Francisco, which is where I am living, and happy to be here with you all. I'm a retired meeting facilitator, meeting designer, and facilitator. Currently make documentary films, and sort of a fun fact about me is that I'm also a DJ at a gay and lesbian country western dance club here in San Francisco. And so that keeps me busy. Um, I identify as a solo ager because I've never married, I don't have kids, but I do have a brother who's lives about 400 miles away in Southern California, and I'll talk a little later about my future plans to move down to that area to be closer to him and to my other family down there. And I'll pass it along.
Thanks, Dan. Jackson, you or Jack to me, you're the next. I'm going to spotlight you as well.
Very good. I am Jack Rayner. I live half-time in Atlanta and half-time in 2 hours and 45 minutes north in the first county of North Carolina that is at the base of the Appalachian Mountains. I am semi-retired as a clinical psychologist and am a solo ager because I am that. I am a widower. My siblings are deceased. My former spouse's siblings are deceased. And I have no children and am disconnected from all of nieces, nephews, grands, all of those folks. So I am the end of my line, uh, which has been a very interesting place to find myself in order to be able to create a community. And so the term solo ager fits me to a T. And I will be more than happy to share how I live in that solitary place as we talk.
Thank you so much. Sky, did you want to introduce yourself? And I'm going to spotlight you as well.
Aloha, everybody. My name is Sky, and I live in Hawaii in a tiny little beachside town called Waimanalo. I'm 68 years old. I'm a medical social worker, and I recently created my passion project, which is called Malama Village. I'm the founder and executive director of the village, which I'll talk more about later, I think. I am very much a solar ager like you, Jackson. No children, which was very intentional in my life and which was the right decision for me. I never wanted to marry. I'm single. I don't have any any living family that I'm close with, so I am truly a solar ager too. Most of my life, I felt very comfortable with that decision and have lived very happily as an adventurer and just enjoying the planet and enjoying my life. As I've gotten older, there have been some obstacles that I've had to navigate, and so it's a multi-layered experience now being a solo ager. But I do really embrace this time of my life tremendously and feel good about my decision. But I do feel there's more to navigate, and I'm really glad we're having this discussion because I think that it takes planning and intentionality to navigate well this time of life.
Thank you, Sky. And I'm looking in the room to see if Thelma has arrived yet, and I don't believe she has. So I want to say just one thing. Thelma, when she comes, I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. But quickly, just so you know, she represents sort of the older adult. She's in her 90s and brings unique experiences and one of the things that DOROT is we define solo aging very broadly. So some of the people here who, as you've heard, really are feeling they are, I think, Jack, you said the end of the line, or there are people who have spouses, but their spouses are much older than them, or they see that they're sick, or so any reason you're here is a good one, and we welcome and support you in whatever way that you define solo aging. The first question that I wanted to pose to all of you here is about building community and finding meaning. And really, building community is at the heart of what DOROT does. Connection is the heart of our mission. And we also feel that every task that you take as you plan to get older relies on that network. And yet, as we get older, our relationships change. Many of us retire. Many of us lose our loved ones. Jack, you were just talking about that. You lost your wife. So my question is twofold. One, how have your relationships changed as you've aged? And how have you, in the wake of those changes, found and built community? And Jack, I guess I would like to start with you, just because you had a very specific kind of life and connection around you, and then it changed. So.
Sure. I'm more than happy to talk about it. I was married all of my adult life for 38 years, and so I am 71, and so my wife and I grew up together. She had a genetic cancer that took her life, and in the last 10 years, the last decade, I have created an entirely new and different life for myself. It is fundamentally different in every which way. And it's been very interesting because in the last year, I have been critically ill for most of the year. I am now in the process of recovering. And so I am once again creating a very new and a very different life for myself. So this will be the third iteration as an adult that I am looking for meaning, looking for purpose, defining how I will be spending my life, understanding my own physicality, my own spirituality. Uh, and to do that, Sky, as you have said, requires a great deal of very clear, thoughtful energy that has to be mustered and has to be actualized in any number of ordinary types of ways just in order to make it through the day. Uh, One of the things that I have learned in this third iteration of my life is how very well loved I am. I am the best loved man that you will ever meet, and I take that tenderly down to the very bones of my soul that I have got as many good people who are willing to extend themselves to me in such loving and caring ways.
I'm sure there are things you do to elicit that love, and maybe we'll hear more later. But I wanted to turn to you, Sky. You said something that struck me in advance of this conversation. That was a lot of people don't feel they can make friends as they age. That was something and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you actually have really made not just friends, but built a kind of very vital community.
Yeah. Well, I went through a period where I was really struggling with that, how to build community. As we get older, relationships do change, and it's interesting how we all age in different ways and at different times. So some of my friends were becoming a lot older than me. I still love to go out and do a lot of things, and some people were just feeling like maybe because of health or for whatever reasons, people were slowing down in their own ways or very focused on grandchildren, this kind of thing, which I don't have. And so I feel like it's really important to keep making friends as we get older. One of my best friends is 95, and I think one of the most successful parts of her life is that she has continued to make friends throughout her life, and she has a lot of young friends. So as her friends die that are in her age group, she still has a big circle of people that love her. So I thought a lot about it, and I really struggled with it. It was very hard in the beginning to find community and to find that new circle. And I started using Meetup, which some of you may have heard of. And I love Meetup, and I've used it a lot. And I lead some Meetup groups. I have a group called Fabulous Friends Over 50. And so the Meetup is a wonderful way to extend your circles out there, but not necessarily to make intimate friends necessarily. And then I heard about the village movement, and that has been something that has transformed my life and is transforming the life of really, I think, many thousands of seniors across the country right now, and even internationally now. So I heard about it, and I really wanted to start one in Hawaii. There wasn't anything like this here. Nobody knew about what it even was. There's many of them in California, Dan. You have like a choice of about 20 in your area. So I just started exploring it and talking to people, and it took a while, but we opened last year, and we got our nonprofit status in March of this year. So we're brand new, and it's taking like all of my passion, all of my time, all of my everything, which is very exciting for me. And I'm finding that my brain is changing. I'm so engaged in this work that I'm having to learn many new things, and my brain is much healthier, I believe, than it was a year ago. My memory is so much better, and it's really showing me how important it is to keep really learning and studying and being really, really active. When we hear this all the time, but I'm seeing it in action in my brain, in my life. And people say to me, "Oh my goodness, you remember everything," because I remember everybody's names. I meet 50 people, I remember their names. I'm introducing them around. It's really interesting how our brains can really adapt. And I'm finding that the village is a very good response to the fact that so many of us now are aging solo. We are the first generation, I think, in human history, actually, to have as many solo agers as we have. And the village is a very ancient concept of community that we're bringing back into modern society. And so I think that in Hawaii, it's going to make a big difference. And so that's where my community lays now.
Guy,
Thank you, Sky.
can you tell us a bit more about what the village is?
Amy, do you want?
I was going to say, actually, there was a question in the chat about that. We are going to get into the villages movement when we talk about home, which is the next question. So just Sky, if you want to share very quickly, but maybe not in great detail, because we're going to get into it in a bigger way.
Sorry, I'm taking your job, Amy. I apologize.
No,
Okay, and just to say, I'm happy to put out my email address, and people are happy. I'm happy to have people contact me that want to learn more about the village after this session, because I don't want to take up too much time. There's a lot of interesting people here that have things to say. But the village movement, it started with a group of neighbors in Boston 25 years ago that just wanted to figure out a better way to age because they wanted to stay in their community. And through meeting for coffee every week for 2 years, they came up with this model. There's now over 300 villages across the United States, and it's growing internationally now. So it's based in community. It's not from the government. It's not necessarily funded. We're doing it all as volunteers, and we have no money at the moment. We hope that will change with time. But basically, it's volunteer powered, and it's organic to the community that it's born into. So each village can be very different from one another. But it's about neighbor to neighbor connections. So we really get to know each other, and we help each other in concrete ways to age together. So there's a big social component, and there's a big services component. Like I drive, and there's a lot of people that don't, or they drive in limited ways. So I'm happy to offer myself as a driver. Somebody else knows IT. I'm really bad with that. Somebody will come to my house and help me set up my phone, my new phone and my new TV, things like that. So we do an exchange, almost like a bartering system, but it's not that clear cut. And our motto is give what you can, take what you need. So that's what we're about.
Lovely. Thank you.
And we will hear more about it. So thank you. And Jack, you can always, interrupt and ask questions in that good way. I
Hey, I've
want
got a big mouth.
got good wisdom too. I will just say to the group that I should call you Dr. Rayner has led sessions for us on anything from navigating disenfranchisement and other topics. So he is a real expert on relationships.
The
So
Dr. Rayner piece works wonderfully well for restaurant reservations because most people think that I'm a neurologist. So other than that, Jack is fine.
and Dan, I just wanted to turn to you, and because the thing I was struck by many things you said, including the country western LGBT dancing, which you mentioned, but you also said that you are a classic introvert, um, and I bet there are other people in this room right now who see themselves as introverts and feel they've been told you have to go out and meet people, you have to, extend yourself, and I do think it helps to do that, but it can be hard. So I wondered if you could share a little bit about that kind of duality of wanting to get out there and being an introvert.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic to really feel sort of sapped when I'm out in a large group, um, and still want to go out and be outside of my home. And so people have actually helped me along this road over the years in very simple but concrete ways. I've worked at home for years, long before the pandemic, and I love my home, but you get a little stir crazy. And a friend of mine said, just go out and sit in the cafe around the corner. You don't need to talk to anybody, just be among those other people. And it was amazing what a change that made. I felt more creative when I was out in the coffee shop. The owner of the coffee shop came to know me, and would at the end of they close at 2 o'clock, and so he was sort of cleaning up. He would be cleaning up around 2 o'clock, and he'd bring me a little snack of stuff that they had left over. So it was a really wonderful way to make a connection directly with him as the owner, but also to just be in that community. Um, in some of the other things I've done, I mentioned that I'm a filmmaker. I do see a lot of films. And so for me, just going out and sitting in a movie theater, even though I'm by myself, is a great way for me to find community. In fact, I love going to movies by myself, um, because I know that my neighbor is not going to talk. Um, I'm one of those people who really focuses on the film. Um, and so that's a really terrific way for me to go and to go to a movie during the day. I mean, that is the height for me. That is the height of um, independence. I can go to a movie at 10 o'clock in the morning. Um, but I did mention the LGBTQ country western dancing, and that is probably the biggest way that I have found to be in community in a very particular way. I've been we have a country western dance club here in San Francisco twice a week. It's run by a nonprofit group, and really the person who started it and everybody who's involved with it is adamant that it is about building community. That's what it's there for. You get to see people, you get to meet people, you have little 3-minute relationships as you dance with different people. Anybody can lead and anybody can follow, so there are no gender roles around that, which is terrific. Um, on a Sunday night, which is our big night, we might have 150 people there. So it's a really crowded, energetic place. And so I can go and I can just go for an hour if that's all I have energy for, and do my dancing and then come home to my dog. Or I can stay for 2, 3 hours. It's a little different when I DJ because I'm up on a platform above everybody. But it's a great way for me to kind of get the energy of a big crowd of people without being right down there in the middle of it. People still come up and talk to me. They come up and visit, and I get to see the immediate results of what I'm doing, what I'm playing. Are people responding well to this? People maybe don't aren't dancing to this particular thing. And so I'm getting lots of input and feedback while I'm doing that. So those are some of the ways that as an introvert, I can put myself into a setting where I'm around people, but I'm not necessarily interacting with a huge group of people. And I don't like the way this sounds, but I can be selective about, I guess what I can do is I can conserve my energy. That's the way I'll put it, um, in that kind of a group setting.
And just a quick question, what is the place for dancing, an organization or a single cafe or a restaurant? Was the question from Linda, if you don't mind just sharing.
Is the question, what is the name of the place? Is
Or
that?
what is the place? Just is it an organization?
Oh, gotcha. So it's an organization that rents a dance somebody else's dance club twice a week, and so we go into a ready-made dance club, and but we've really made an investment in the place. We paid for and installed a new dance floor. It's a huge club, and we paid for and installed a new dance club. So we have a real vested interest in how successful it is.
Terrific. And I think I heard that Thelma is here on the screen, so I wanted to introduce her. If my colleagues can help me unmute. Thelma, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Terrific. Okay. I'm going to highlight you, and I'm going to add the spotlight. And I want to, first of all, thank you for making it through New York City traffic. I heard it was quite a journey, quite literally.
Yes.
But we didn't get Jack, Dan, and Sky, your colleagues on the panel, were able to take a minute to introduce themselves. So if you don't mind just sharing a minute or two about yourself, you know, your age, where you come from, a little bit about yourself. I have already shared that you were the longtime artistic director of the Pearls of Wisdom, which is a storytelling group of older adults who travel to places throughout the city and share their stories. And you are a master storyteller, but there's a lot more to Thelma Ruffin Thomas. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit right now.
My name is Thelma Ruffin Thomas, just to let you know. I'm a storytelling woman going fast, not slow. So you better pay attention to this rap of mine. If you can't keep up, you'll be left behind. My stories have a reason why they've got to be told to remind all our youngins about our people who were sold. They were taken from their homes in Africa, you see, but they never stopped believing that one day they would be free. I've traveled to the lands where my ancestors are from. Ghana, Sierra Leone, the Gambia some, to hear firsthand what it's like there now, to prepare my newest story so I can take this vow. That's just a little bit about myself. I was born in New York City, was raised in Harlem, went to school here from Fordham University and Queens College. I got my master's in library science. And I worked for the New York Public Library for 34 years and retired as a branch librarian. I am 92 years, so I say 92 and a half. I'll be 93 in February. I worked for the Elder Share the Arts after I retired from the library. I worked for the Elder Share the Arts as the artistic director of the Pearls of Wisdom, and I retired which was under the auspices of DOROT, and I retired from the artistic director last. It seems like it's 2 years now. After working a total of 25 years under the auspices of Elder Share the Arts and also DOROT. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And Thelma, the first question, and we're going to move on to the second one soon, but I would love just for you to touch on it briefly before we move. And that was really about building community. And there are so many ways I think you have helped nurture community. But and meet people and sort of and keep yourself feeling vital. And I wondered if you could just share a little bit about the honey and the bears.
Yes, I always wanted to learn how to swim, and I finally learned to swim when I was I learned to swim when I was 50 years old. And then I went to an exhibition where a group called the Honeys and Bears, who was started in 1979 at a uh, city recreation pool. And I went and saw them do uh, things with their bodies that I didn't think could be done at that age. And so I joined them, and they met Monday and Wednesday at the uh, pool. And then the recreation center where we were going to was being taken over by construction. And they said it would be finished this year and that year, and it hasn't. So we've been out of there for 3 or 4 years. And we've been poolless, going from one pool to another. And now we're at Millbank on 118th Street. I also compete. The group does not compete on its own. It's synchronized swimming is what they do when they practice. But a few of us compete, and I competed last year in Des Moines, Iowa, in the 90 to 100 group. And I was surprised that I came in fourth place. And in order to compete in the national, you have to have medaled in the state. And but I've never, won anything for the national. So I was surprised that I got something for fourth place, and I really enjoyed doing that. Um, I attend my senior center, which is about a half a block away from where I live. And I just came back from a retreat at my church, Marble Collegiate Church, which is a Reformed Protestant church. And they had the women's retreat, and I went to that. That was held in Connecticut. And at the senior center, I partake of book discussions and movies. At this point, we are looking at old Columbo movies. And I didn't like Columbo when I was younger, but now I seem to enjoy it a little bit more. So that's on Monday at 12 o'clock. And so it was a series. So this Monday coming will be the last in the series. And then I think he's going to do films that has great Technicolor. And so I look forward to that. And that's my story.
Thank you for your story, Thelma. And I really loved hearing from you and from all of the panelists, just the different ways that you find community and really from church to swimming to your friends to dancing to the villages. So with that, I'm going to go to the next subject, which is about home. And I am going to guess, but if you want to raise hands, how many of you would prefer to age in your home versus moving? And if you, according to AARP, you are with a lot of other people, 75% of people over 50 say that aging in place is an important goal. So I wanted to pose a few questions to the panelists. You don't have to answer them all at the same time or even all of them. But the questions are, one, is aging in your home important to you? If it is important to you, what steps are you considering or have you taken to continue living in your current home? And if you are considering making a move, what types of housing options are you considering? And I thought I would start with you, Dan, because I know from our conversation that you are, in fact, considering a move. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I've lived in San Francisco for 40 years. I've lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for almost all my life. I'm 64 if I didn't mention that before. Um, and I was sure I was going to stay here. And in fact, that I was going to stay in this condo that I'm in right now. But after my mom died 6 years ago, uh, she was my last family tie to this area. She lived an hour away. Um, she was my last family tie to the area. Both my brothers moved to Southern California to go to college and then got married and stayed down there and raised families down there. And uh, I realized, I'm in a lucky position. I love my family. We get along well. And I know not everybody's in that situation. And I realized that though, of course, I love San Francisco and I love my friends here and I love my life here, that as I get older, I think it's going to be important to be around my family in a way that they can support me through my aging process. And so I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than I am. Um, but I also have my older brother died a couple of years ago, and but he has two grown daughters, and of course his widow. I'm very close to all of them, and so I'm actually looking at moving into an active adult community in the Southern California area, which is about 10 minutes from my oldest niece's house. And she doesn't know this yet, but she's going to be responsible for me. Um, so my younger brother now is, for example, is the executor of my estate and is my healthcare proxy. But when I move down there, I'll have a conversation with my oldest niece about taking on part of that role. And so I'll have somebody who's 20 years younger, 25 years younger than I am. Um, and and we'll talk about whether that works for her. Um, I hadn't initially thought about moving into anything other than an apartment building or a condo. But then I found in my research, as I started looking into this, I found two places in Southern California that market themselves as senior artists communities. And they're both about 20 or 25 years old. They're apartment buildings, one 140 units and one about 200 units, I think. Um, and I think when they started, they really worked very hard to make sure that the tenants were somehow involved in the arts. There's no way you can mandate that, but that's who they marketed themselves to. They do less of that now, but they both have art classes on site. One of them has an actual theater, legitimate theater, and a theater company in the Los Angeles area uses that as their second stage. So they have performances there fairly regularly. Um, and that's important to me. As I mentioned, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a dancer. Um, so being around people that are involved in those industries or those crafts or those art forms or other art forms, I think is going to be important as part of my aging process. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll start the country western line dancing class there. Um, why not? So that's what I'm looking forward to. I've never been a big fan of Southern California, but my oldest niece, who's born and raised there, and her husband, who was born and raised there, are big Los Angeles boosters. And every time I go down to visit them, they show me another part of the city that I would never have known about if it hadn't been for them. And I see the appeal. I see the appeal. As a Giants baseball fan, I'll never see the appeal of the Dodgers baseball, and those of you in New York, you know about our rivalry, perhaps the oldest rivalry in baseball, um, from the New York days. But that I am actually looking forward to it. And in fact, about 3, 4, or 5 weeks ago, I was a volunteer discussion leader for Aging Alone Together, and we were in a breakout group, and we were all talking about this topic. It was on the week that you talk about home. And one of the people said to me, Dan, what are you going to do? And I talked about this. And I said, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move in 3 to 5 years. And a woman named Ruth, 94-year-old Ruth, said, Dan, what are you waiting for? It's easier to move the younger you are. And I thought, oh, well, she's got a real point there. And so I'm thinking now this move is maybe a year or two in the future for me. So that's what I have planned for my future.
Um, I wanted to turn to Sky, and I also want to just say to the whole room that you're going to hear about a lot of things, including the Villages movement. Someone already put into the chat the link for the Villages movement, but we are sending out a follow-up email, and we will include that and anything else that Dan or Jack or Thelma and Sky say that you're really curious about, it will be included in that follow-up email. But Sky, I wanted you to talk a little bit more about the Villages movement, and I also want to respond to something that's coming up in the chat, and perhaps you can address it, all of you, if you feel like it, which is the issue of affordability. I think a lot of people, that is sort of the key thing, is whether they can afford to remain where they are. So it just how that's factored into your thinking about aging in place or not aging in place.
Yeah. Well, Hawaii is a very expensive place to live, and so a lot of people do leave this area because of the expense involved. Also, a lot of people retire here because it was their dream, and so we have people leaving and people coming in, kind of. I was very fortunate that I bought my property right before everything went insane, like literally months before everything went insane. So I got in at the last moment that I would have been able to buy here. This is about 25 years ago, and now I would never be able to. So, I have thought a lot about, do I want to age here? Can I age here? My property is very, very demanding. It takes a lot of physical upkeep and a lot of money. It's, when you live in the tropics, there's the salt air and the old houses, that were built when there were really no rules or regulations in Hawaii about building codes. So there's a lot that goes into living here, and I have struggled with, will I be able to? I'm the only person in my neighborhood or in my community, as far as I know, who is managing a property here, a woman alone. Like it is all couples or family groups that are owning properties here. And when somebody becomes widowed, they always move out because they say that they can't do it. So I am a one of a kind in this community in that way. But my dream is to have, when I bought my house, I was 45 years old, and I thought, oh, when I'm older, I want to turn this into like a Golden Girls property kind of style. And by Golden Girls, I don't mean women only, because you guys are invited too, but really that kind of a model of people aging together, having a lot of fun together, supporting each other, and ultimately seeing each other out the door as we die. I am a death doula, certified death doula, and so I've done a lot of work on death and dying issues, and I bring that to the village community that has formed, and think I'll probably be doing a lot of work in that area, which I'm honored to do. So my property now is in this transition. COVID kind of changed things around, and I'm starting the process. And to my surprise, it's not going to really be exactly Golden Girls, because I have these two 20-somethings that live on my property. They've been here a few years, and I am in love with them. I have adopted them into my family life, and I think that they're going to stay for maybe forever if I get lucky. So we're talking about this community that we want to build, and so that is in process. Recently, I created like a bedroom and bathroom area in my carport, having this strong feeling that there's going to be somebody in my life that's going to be in need, that will need a space. And so I wanted to develop a space that was like a refuge for whoever needed it. I think that with things so rough right now politically and so scary for so many of us, that we just need to figure out ways to help each other as much as possible during this time. And that's part of why I wanted a village here, so that people don't fall through the cracks, and so that there's somewhere for people to go if they don't have somewhere to go. There's enough of us that have homes that we can help those that might be in between things. So I'm just really thinking a lot about, how to create this. And we are a mixed community in terms of our financial stability, and we will probably become more mixed as we grow more, and we want to be that way. And so we're just in the process of figuring out how we're going to support each other along the road. And I think my property will be, hopefully one little piece of that. But that being said, I do worry about being able to manage it as I get older. It does take a lot to do, and I will need a lot of help. So I want the young bloods to come in and help me along the way, and they know it too. So hopefully, with some help from other people, we'll be able to keep this going.
Thank you, Sky. And do you mind just sharing what island you are? Someone asked about that. Which
Yes,
island?
I'm on the island of Oahu. People usually think of Waikiki, but it's nothing like Waikiki where I live. It's rural and it's very beautiful. We have the Kolau Mountains and we have Waimanalo Beach, and it's a wonderful, wonderful area of the island to live on. But it's only about a half hour from Honolulu, so it's you can have the city life as much as you want it, but it's really pretty country out here.
Hmm. I'm going to turn to another question that I'm actually going to ask Thelma and Jack to address. But before I do, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that either of you wanted to share quickly on where you live. Okay. So I'm going to turn to the topic of health. And I know that each of these topics can warrant its own session, if not a 6-month curriculum. But I want to cover a few different things, really the things that come up. And when I spoke with all of you, really, you mentioned that a health challenge had touched either you or a loved one. And I wanted to ask you one about just the emotional, how you manage emotions related to that and the strategies that you have used to address these challenges. And Jack, I wanted to start with you, and then Thelma, I had a more specific question for you, but I know, Jack, that you have faced some pretty serious challenges over, um, recent years. So can you talk more about, you don't have to describe it if you don't want to, but how you've rallied your friends around you and how you've managed your emotions around that diagnosis?
Sure. Well, goodness, Amy, you and I had dinner in Atlanta several weeks ago, and you saw me eating very differently. I am a true bionic man, and in the last year, my entire digestive system, I had a colon rupture, was septic, nearly died, and so I have been rebuilt. And it has been a very interesting process for me because I have been sick now for 10 months. I am recovering, I am doing quite well. For me, aging in place, it's been very interesting because I've got a group of people. There are 8 of us in Atlanta, and I have been landlocked in Atlanta. I've not been back to the mountains. We'll go back in a couple of weeks. There are several of us in North Carolina, and we have what we call a friend circle where we keep each other's backs. We know each other's healthcare needs. We have each other's advanced directives. We do care for each other. You need cataracts. Certainly, I'll take you and be with you while you're getting the cataract surgery. It's going to be interesting for me in terms of living because I'm going to have to stay in the big city for health care when I prefer to live in the mountains, which is very rural and remote. How have I taken care of myself? I have had people who have taken care of me. I am very independent and like to think of myself as being strong and stalwart, not unlike Superman. Well, Superman left the building completely in the last year. And I have had the experience of being quite dependent on others to care for me in deeply personal ways. And I am fortunate enough that the relationships that I have had and continue to have been strong enough that they have just pretty much taken over my life as I have needed them to. And as I have gained strength back, they have stepped away and encouraged me to regain my independence. There's not any particular rhyme nor reason to how that happened other than out of the strength of our relationships and the knowledge that they could indeed know how I believe, what I needed, and how to behave in my behalf. When I was admitted originally to the hospital, my primary agent of my advance directives was not available, and four of my friends were in the hospital with me when I had a really life-threatening crisis. The surgeon came out and looked at the four of them and said, "The agent is not here, and I need to know how to proceed because it's possible that he's not going to live." And it was really quite interesting because all four of them knew of my wishes about mortality, of living, of dying, and they were able to be very articulate with the surgeon, which she then took as a matter of fact and proceeded. Uh, it was up to my friends after I was able to come back to life several weeks later to tell me what they had done on my behalf and that they had been able to step inside of my life and do that with the understanding that they loved me enough and cared for me enough and knew what my wishes were. And so, what we have agreed to do now is to meet on a quarterly basis to ensure that we know what each other's wishes, needs, care, ideas are. Uh, and so we will do that with some degree of intentionality.
Great. I want to just say I was reading a book related to aging by the writer M.T. Connolly, The Measure of Our Age, and she talked about not thinking about dependence and independence, but interdependence, and that, there are ways where we're going to need to be dependent on others and they're going to need to depend on us, and to sort of think about it as in that way that you were describing.
Amy, it's really interesting because I really like that word interdependence. What I have learned, though, is how to be fully and completely dependent.
Mm,
I have been as dependent on my friends as a 5-year-old depends on a parent, and they have been able to care for me in very parental ways when they are my peers. And so I am regaining a sense of interdependence. But quite honestly, I thought I knew what that was. You learn something new every day.
mm. I want to go to Thelma, but there was one question, and I think it's important because people think that you can only make these friends over a long lifetime. And I know from our dinner that actually some of these friends are much more recent for you. So can
Yeah.
you just share, how long have you known some of these people?
Several years. There are some that I have known more for a decade, but they are a completely new group to me, a group of people in the last decade since my wife died. And what I have done is very clearly reach to people. I have not waited for them to reach to me. I have been the one to initially go to others and to find ways to find connections, to find collegiality, to find companionship, and then to work to develop a history. And so it has happened over the course of several years that we do now have a different level of history with each other. Uh, but it takes a lot of effort. None of it happens passively. It's a very active, very intentional effort to form those types of friendships.
Yeah, but I wanted to point out that these aren't, childhood friends, but
No.
they're people you've made as adults, and so that's something that others can do as well. And
Yeah,
Thelma, I
we're
wanted,
all old as dirt. We're all the same age. We are of the same generation. Uh, and so, and in a lot of ways, are still like teenagers with each other, just getting to know each other over the course of time.
and Thelma, I just wanted to turn to you now. You're 92 and a half, turning 93 in February. So clearly there are health issues that you think about. And also one thing I was struck by that you had said is you had actually a very serious accident 30 years ago. that left you needing to be in a wheelchair for a couple of years. And I was really struck by how you said there was a kind of positive learning to it. I think you talked about it made you realize something that you could live in your home. So can you talk more about that experience and your learnings and the emotions connected to, changes in your body?
Um, well, one of the things that was really interesting is how do you move a wheelchair around in an apartment? And so there was a kitchen that was wide enough for me to move the wheelchair in. And at one point, I was able to bake for myself. Um, and there are no steps leading into my apartment building, which is 22 floors. So that was very easy to get out and say, go to the doctor after I was in the hospital for 9 weeks. And so I was able to wheel myself out. And if I had steps, it definitely would have limited how I would be getting around. Um, and so when I was able to stand, I could get into the kitchen and maybe boil some water or something like that. But I did have children uh, who were able to help me, and but thinking back on it, they were all working, and so I had a home attendant to come and help me out. But I did. Um, I don't know how I did it. Thinking about it now, because it was almost 2 years that I didn't walk. But I also um, had wonderful friends who came to visit and who actually would say, would you like me to go and pick up some food for you? Or would you like to go for a walk? And I could take the wheelchair and, push the wheelchair. So I didn't feel alone at all. And I had recently moved into my apartment building, and I've been there now 40 years. So it was not um, it changed my life. It changed my life because it broke my shoulder, my left shoulder, and my left ankle, and I still do not have full range of motion movement in my shoulder, and my ankle has a plate in it, and so um, the it formed arthritis there, and I now have to use a cane. But I think the cane came later when I had a knee replacement. So I pretty much was able to bounce back. But at the time, it was a horror.
Mhm. Thank you, Thelma. I I am sensitive to us being near the end of our 6:15 time, and I did want to leave time for some people to ask questions, but I would be remiss. I want to ask one question of all of you before I open it up to others. And I'm just going to share a quote that someone from our panel last year shared that I think is pretty inspiring. And his name is Donald Bell. He's from Chicago. And I say that because I try to really bring in a diversity of geography, but I realize I haven't represented the Midwest in this session. So this quote is from Donald Bell in Chicago, and he wrote, "Rather than buying into the values of ageism that tell us we are lesser as we grow older, we are leaning into the lessons of aging and are claiming our years and experience and enjoying that. We are living them very actively and fully." So for my last question to you, and then we can take a few from the audience, what is something that you most enjoy about being a solo ager? Or you can take it, how are you living actively and vitally? And you've already shared a lot about that, but what are the things that you enjoy about this time in your life and the fact of being a solo ager. And anyone can start.
Well, I'd say that I love my independence. I love where I live. Hawaii's a wonderful place to live. I love the village community and the outer community because Hawaii is a very gentle, caring community, and the island in general. And I feel now the sense of freedom. Like, I don't really care what anybody thinks. I just follow my path. I follow my heart. I go with my passion. And I think one of the things that's so great for me is that at this age, at 68 years old, I have more gratitude for my life and more recognition of the gift of my life than I ever had by far before. So I really appreciate every day, and I try to live it very authentically, and I don't take anything for granted. And even on a bad day, I'm filled with gratitude, and I think that's one of the biggest pleasures for me of getting older.
Mm.
I know for me, at 71, I like knowing what I know without being arrogant about saying, oh, I've got the wisdom of the universe. I just like knowing what I know and knowing what I don't know. And so if I know what I know, then I can take care of myself. And if there are things that I don't know, I can ask. And there are plenty of people who are willing to give me an opinion about a whole lot of things. If I want the truth, I can certainly go and look for that as well. And so I like being with others in a much more mutual exchange of this is what our history has told us, this is how we have integrated what we know, what we learn, and that's for me, that's nice.
I think from my perspective, two things come to mind. One is, and I think Sky and Jack both touched on this. I am happy being completely responsible for myself. Um, I, I I don't have everything that I want or need, but that's okay. I know that if I need something or want something, I know that I'm responsible for going out and generating it. So that's one piece. The second piece is, I come from a community that was just decimated by AIDS. I'm in San Francisco, a gay man, and I've been here since the 80s. My partner died 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, and lots of people that I knew died. And so I am really happy to be here.
Mm.
Um, you know, People talk, and I understand everybody has a different experience. And people have complaints and concerns about getting older. And my attitude is, you only get older if you're lucky.
Love it.
What did you want to share? I remember you shared something about a conversation you had with a health aide who was asking you about something, and you gave her advice. I don't know if you wanted to share that or if there was anything that you wanted to say on the thought of, growing older, the benefits. Thelma, that one's for you. I don't know if you
Oh,
heard it.
no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I thought it was for Dan.
Oh, no,
What's the
no, it was
question?
for you. It was for you. I'm sorry. I was wondering. Um, you shared a lot, including some advice you shared recently with um, a, a health aide who asked your advice. I think she was a 30-year-old. And
Oh,
I just,
yes.
I
Yes.
wondered if you wanted to share that or if there was anything else about sort of the wisdom that you feel.
Yes. She had just started a job as a home attendant, and this was her first client. And he was suggesting to her that she do something legal, uh, that she would give him part of her paycheck and she wouldn't have to work. And she was actually thinking about it. And I said, no, no, don't do that. You have to, uh, how is that? How are you gaining? You've been trained by the agency to clean people's apartments, and you're getting paid to do that, and and you're going to get into trouble with this, and then you're going to lose that job, and it's going to be difficult to get another job. And also, I want to mention to you that if someone offers for you to work without taking out Social Security, don't do that. I said, so many people have worked off the books, and at this time in their lives, they don't have any Social Security. I said, I remember when I was 14 years old and I worked during the summer, and they took out Social Security. And so now at the age of 92, I don't have to be working unless I want to, because those little amounts add up to quite a bit. And so be very careful about what you do, because later on it will show up. And so I don't know whether she'll follow through, but she looked at me thoughtfully.
And I think you also said that you haven't been good at husbands, but you're very good at work.
Oh, yes, yes. One of the things some women will talk to me and ask me about husbands. I say, oh, yes, I've had two husbands, and but I'm not good at selecting husbands. You know, for some reason, I select the one who can dance well and is charming. And I've been told by psychiatrists and social workers that that probably is someone in your family. And I said, yes, my father was a charmer. And so your first boyfriend, they claim, the first man that you think seriously about is someone who you've seen in your lifetime or seen a copy of. And my father was very charming. He was not a very good husband to my mother, nor a good father. And so, but as far as jobs are concerned, I know how to take tests and to look ahead. And I did very well as an employee. And so I really don't have to worry about income, because my Social Security is and my pension are good.
So I realized I have mislabeled this. I had said that we would have time for Q&A. I don't think we have time for Q&A. We're right at 6:15. But what I would like to end with, if everyone, if I'm going to actually turn the recording off, I'm going to officially thank Dan and Jack and Sky and Thelma. I'm going to turn off the recording.